Welcome to the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Together we explore the vast landscapes of life, delving into the rich soil of experiences, sowing the seeds of curiosity, and harvesting the profound wisdom that each episode unfolds. Welcome to another Harvesting Wisdom podcast. I'm your host, Mike McMahon. Today with me, I have Petya. I never pronounce the name right, so Petya.
Petya is fine, yeah.
Ivanova.
Ivanova, yes.
Ivanova. Okay,
Close.
Great. That's close, as close as I get. So you're one of the leading, Bulgaria's leading advocates for regenerative agriculture, soil health, and you're serving as a member and expert with Association of Bulgarian No-Tillers, Regenerative Farmers. It's the ABNT, it's the abbreviation. You've been doing it for about 15 years. You've been studying living systems and roughly a decade focused specifically on regenerative agriculture. You've become a prominent voice promoting conservative agriculture, no-till farming, soil biology, ecosystem restoration across the country. You work closely with farmers to transition away from conventional input-intensive toward practices to rebuild soil function, improve resilience, and reduce environmental impacts. Okay, we got that out of the way. So tell me, let's just talk about your upbringing. Were you on a farm? Did your parents or grandparents do any kind of farming? And what was your background? Did you go to college and learn biology? How did you get to the point where you wanted to do this?
Well, actually, here in Bulgaria, we are very connected to the land, and my parents and my grandparents were doing some agriculture just for homestead purposes, but I actually don't have agricultural background. My background is in engineer ecology, and actually, the start was with questions.
Yeah.
I started to ask myself questions why the agriculture looks the way it looks today, the modern agriculture, why we have foods that are so loaded with pesticides, why the meat production involves so many mistreatment of the animals, and why the industrial agriculture is so detrimental for the landscape. And let's say I started to learn books, lectures, courses, and started to build my knowledge in agroecology, shifted away a bit of pure ecology, and it was quite a journey. I can remember that at that time in 2014, 15, 17, it was devastating in Bulgaria to speak on these topics. No one was interested, and farmers were very skeptical on how they can produce without tillage or with what soil biology and soil health can deliver to them, to their growing practices. And in 2020, I believe, I met Alexander Kitev, who was the initiator of the founding of the Association of Bulgarian No-Tillers. These were the first 10, 15 people that started to work that way, and I became a part of it. So since then, we disseminate knowledge and support farmers in any possible way for the transition.
So you said you had I don't know if you got a degree in engineering and eco-engineering or what?
Engineer ecology.
Ecology. Yeah. So explain, what is that?
Well, it's mainly focused on pollution from industrial, different industries. It's focused on methods of, let's say, soil remediation, water remediation, everything that industry touches.
Okay.
Needs some ecology.
So you from the get-go, when you went to school, that's what you got into. That's what you've been thinking. So, and 15 years ago. So, I'm looking at the history of Bulgaria, um, brief history um, from Ottoman Empire
Yeah.
leaving, then shortly thereafter, because you kind of missed the Industrial Revolution with the Ottomans, but then started to get into it, and then there was World War One, then there's World War Two, then there was the Soviet came in here. You had different regimes, you had kings, you had all kinds of different things going
Yeah.
on, and the Soviets had a system, but their system was based on each of the multiple countries uh, in the Soviet Union producing specific things. And then there was logistics where trains would go back and forth, and you got into markets in Europe, and you were also your wine, for instance, was being sold in all of the Soviet countries. So and then all of a sudden the switch goes off in 1989, and nobody's ready, right?
Yeah.
No, why would any? So politically, um, it was kind of the whole country becomes a startup, and from what I understand, unemployment was 36 or 37%, which is outrageous. Um, at that point in time, and it took a while, right? It took all the way
Yeah.
until 2009, maybe, I don't know. 15, 20 years before things started to sort themselves out. Um, how much was government, just lack of capacity with the government, or a new government? And then what did did people start growing their own food just to eat with that many unemployed people? Tell me, describe what happened in that period.
Well, I was quite young in that period,
Yeah,
and I remember how my parents strived to survive and sustain the family. But I believe the disconnection of the people from the land happened during the Soviet part of our history continued at that point, and even when they get back the land to the the owners, the private owners, actually people were not able to start doing agriculture because they need equipment, they need investments, which
sure.
they are not able to do. And maybe the agriculture started to change when Bulgaria joined the European Union,
Right.
and soon after the subsidies came. And today's shape of Bulgarian agriculture is actually kind of result
And it's
of this policy.
when was that? Like 2006.
Somewhere there, yeah.
Yeah. So that's even been 20 years. So that's a bit ago, but not that long ago. And subsidies came in, but you guys were one of the last to join the EU, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And even today, when I was talking with Philippe, he was saying that out of the 24 European Union countries, your policies in Bulgaria are the most restrictive, which makes it difficult to transition anything in farming, right? So you have inspectors for every single crop.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do a diversified farm, for instance, wow, there's a lot of challenges to that. So um, your group is um, there to help farmers make that transition. So explain to me, how what do you do? Do you have like lesson plans? Do you have do you work on policy? What is it that what form of intervention do you take?
Oh, we have both. We had a period when the new common agricultural policy was prepared for the current period of subsidizing. When we were deliberately communicating with the Ministry of Agriculture to introduce these practices, conservation agriculture, no-tilling, um, as something that can be in line with the green direction that European policy is taking. And mm, I cannot say that we had some exceptional results, but a lot of information was exchanged, and I believe that helped for a better recognition of this way of farming. And actually, a lot of the practices are now subsidized.
Right.
And but we pay more attention to the farmers to build this community and exchange between them, and to arrange different kinds of trainings, workshops, lectures, uh, in all over Bulgaria, so the farmers can start to absorb this information, to generate ideas how their transition can go and how far they can go, how can they understand better the processes of nature and soils, and how they can use them with cooperation and less um, fighting against.
Yeah. So it's really is a transition, and each farm has to make decisions on their own, right? So, and some of them, if they already own equipment, they want to use that equipment. They want to till no matter what because they own the equipment to do it. Or some of them, want to spike the vegetable with some synthetic fertilizer. Occasionally, you got a problem, so you want to spray. So some people transition a little slower, but and some just take it lock, stock, and barrel and go for it 100%. So it's been 10 to 15 years, and we've talked about such a short period of time for society to be doing anything anyway, right? I mean, you joined the EU just in 2006, and you were, in 2008, 9, we had a financial crisis across the world, including the EU. So funding, I'm sure, was limited. Shortly thereafter, there's COVID. I mean, it's like one thing after another. So, what you're saying is that you're trying to build up a network of people, farmers, homeowners that are able to grow on their own and understand a process that is not quite as capital intensive, right? But it is, um, it does require a little bit of knowledge on how to do things. So in that short period of time, have you started to see success stories?
Oh yeah, I can see a lot of them. Even in 2020, when the first no-tillers gathered and founded the association, they already had 3, 4 years in transition, and at the very beginning, they can start see the results. I can talk specifically for grain production, where no-till is applied, and they start to see better moisture retention, better results, especially in the spring crops. Here, the droughts are a thing, and it's a big challenge, and maybe main driver for the farmers to make a change. So they can see the difference, and they can see results from the first year, because a lot of expenses are reduced from the production processes without the tillage and all the fighting with the land, all the digging.
Yeah, the extra work.
Yeah, it's extra work and extra expenses, not only for fuel, but amortization of the equipment, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big, heavy industry that these things are very significant.
So when you talk about grains, anybody can grow on a small plot as big as this room and grow their own wheat for production, or to ferment it from here. You can do anything you want with it, right? But when I think in terms of grains, I usually think larger properties. So I met at the farmers market in Plovdiv quite a few um, farmers. I'd say the average size was 5 to 15 hectares, which is a lot for a family farm. I mean, 1 acre, 1 hectare is a lot,
Yeah.
but depending on what you're growing, and it seemed like the people were growing multiple different things, which is also means you have to be an expert in multiple things, right? So when you're talking grain production, it's kind of a monoculture, and I think monocultures have uh, nothing, sometimes have a bad, that's a bad thing to think of a monoculture, but it's really not a bad thing. It's the only way we can scale and feed the planet.
Yeah.
But it's so there's some reality involved. We can't just be dreamers about everything, right? So when you're talking crop these grain productions, what's the largest size farms you see people um, uh, that are now trying regenerative?
Well, first to say, regenerative is a big word.
Oh yeah,
It's a
that's true.
higher goal.
Right.
Not all the no-tillers really turn to regenerative, but at least conservation is quite good as a result as well. Here in Bulgaria, we have some very huge farms, something like 1,500. Sorry, just the numbers.
That's big.
No, this is average farm, 1,500 hectares, but we have 15,000 hectares, for example,
Wow.
6,000 hectares.
Now, are
We
you
have-
working with any farmers that's that large a scale that are trying to make changes?
Yeah, well, grain producers we have, they work between 200 hectares and these numbers that I mentioned.
Wow.
So in this range,
So you just brought up a great point. Regenerative is a big word.
yeah, it is.
So if and the ideal regenerative is maybe something we'll never get to because we're humans anyway, right? So, but tell me what your concept of regenerative would be. Tell me the basics. What would you say are the priorities? And let's talk about that. There's
Well,
only really a half dozen things, right? That can make it truly regenerative. But let's talk about the big ones.
well, first I believe we need to put the perspective what kind is the production. If we talking about grain production, vegetables, orchards, or something else, because every production system has its own shape.
Very crop related, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it is
agree.
very crop related and agrotechnics and everything else. But generally, and to mention for me, I don't think that is something that we cannot achieve. We 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 are capable.
Right.
It's just a journey that we need to have the honesty and the bravery to undertake. And it is something achievable to be regenerative at any scale, in my belief, in my observations and research I've done and
Okay.
learning I've done during these years. So it is something that every farmer is capable of.
Okay.
And actually, regenerative agriculture exists because the farmers made it. Of
Right.
course, the science helped, but they are the main driver.
And there was
of it.
probably a lot of regenerative farming going on 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That wasn't completely regenerative as we know it today. But so tell me about the specific things that if I were to tell a farmer there's 5 things you have to do or change, what would you say they are?
5 things that they need to change.
Or adapt to.
Um,
Let's start with no tilling or reduced tillage.
well, I can say 3 simple steps. First, we need to reduce the destruction. So we need to stop tilling.
Got it.
I will quote Dwayne Beck from the Cotter Lake Research Farm. We need to stop the bleeding, he says.
Okay, yeah.
We need to stop the bleeding. We need to stop losing carbon. We need to stop losing energy from the soils, losing structure, biology, etc.
Mm-hmm.
After that,
And that all happens during a tilling process.
yeah, this all happens
It's
with the
because
village.
we're basically taking biology's in that top 6 inches or I don't know how many centimeters that would be. Um, that's where it goes all the way through, but it's
Yeah.
really active up here. And when we till 3 feet down, we turn it upside down, right? So we're changing structure. We're leaving it susceptible for compaction. There's a lot of, you just brought up a whole bunch of things there, but so that's the first thing, stop the
Yeah.
bleeding. Okay,
Stop
I
the
like that.
bleeding first. Then we need um, we need to secure some protection. So you have a wound on the land, on the tilled land. You need to start to dig that wound. After that, you need to cover it.
Yeah.
So we need protection. We need a protective layer. This mulch, what we are doing with the residues,
The armor.
mulching, the armor. We need to protect this ecosystem so it can have the conditions to start to restore.
Sure.
After that, we need to be more creative. How we can boost the living processes in that soil, how we can support life and not fight with it, how we can boost soil life, how we can boost the plant health, because let's say plant protection that we use pesticides for has to start with crop health at first. So before the pesticides, to fight against the illness, the disease or the pests, we have so much to do to improve our crop health so it can be less susceptible for disease and pests. And the same about soil biology. We can do a lot to boost the soil biology, start to restore this ecosystem of microbes in there so they can work for us in this direction.
Yeah, so you just brought up kind of two things there. One is soil biology. You know, what do you have to do to improve that? Um, the other kind of concept is one way to do that is more carbon in the soil as well, protecting that carbon because the biology needs the carbon. Um, so when you're, um, let's talk about how do you improve biology. Um, are you talking about amending with composts, vermicompost? I know you talked about mulch. Mulch kind of puts a cap and allows fermentation to exist, you know, otherwise it's exposed to the sun, it's exposed to the wind, it's exposed to the rain, which compacts. So what methods of improving biology are you specifically talking about? A little of everything?
Well, again, it's a context specific. If we have a farm that is 2,000 hectares, compost is not very applicable.
Mm-hmm.
But what farmers can do with practices, they can capture carbon in these huge areas. They can capture a lot of carbon with cover crops. So it is very a matter of context, what exact practices to use, but mainly you need to feed the biology. First, you need to stop killing it.
Yeah.
with
So we kill it with pesticides, herbicides,
and tillage.
fungicides,
And
and
tillage.
of course tillage.
Yeah.
But the chemical itself will, we're trying to get biology to live, and when you use a fungicide, you're killing your fungi.
Yeah.
When you're using pesticides, again, you're killing part of that food web, right? So,
Yeah.
So the issue, of course, is if you're the farmer and now you have mildew or you have something, and you have this year's crop, kind of everything goes out the door. You're gonna spray it with something to save your crop because it's a lot of money there, right?
Yeah.
So that transition is a balanced thing.
Yeah, it is definitely, and let's say, especially in industrial agriculture context, which is grain production, They cannot stop using these tools they already have because they are dependent on them.
Right. Well,
So the
harvesting
land,
equipment, sure.
no, I mean the pesticides, the
Oh.
fertilizers. Um, the system is addicted to them because it's not healthy.
Right.
So the approach is to start to make more things that support life and start to build life. When they have to spray, they go and spray. They cannot afford to lose yields, especially in these huge areas. It is not possible to
Yeah.
do business that way. So it's not the goal to the for example, the approach with organic farming is to stop everything synthetic right away. So
Right.
this is what you have to do in the transition. Here we have slightly different approach. We start to make more positive impacts and try to reduce the negative impacts.
Uh-huh.
And this can be achieved with a lot of different practices. I can bring some example. One of our farmers, he he is using first agrotechnical approach how to reduce the disease, fungal disease in wheat and barley, for example. He is reducing the seeding rates so the plants can have more air, better airflow through the field. He's seeding, he's mixing six different varieties of barley, for example, if the barley is the crop. So the different varieties has different susceptibility,
Sure.
and they don't spread that much
Between the varieties.
between the varieties, the disease. And of course, he's boosting with different biostimulants, organic fertilization, let's say humic acid. We cannot bring compost to such huge areas, and it won't be.
No, but extracts you can take.
Yeah, but we can take extracts. Right. We can use
pumps the biology in.
And he's supporting the health of the crop. So now he's 7 8 years practicing no-till. He's not using any fungicides on his crops. He's avoiding to use any insecticides. Even if there is some pressure, he's restraining himself to use pesticides. So the beneficial insects can develop back to restore their populations, and he don't have the need. His crops are healthy. The yields are absolutely the same as the conventional neighbors that are loading so much chemicals and
spending
labor.
Money on it.
Yeah, he's reducing so much of the cost of the production, and at the same time he's having better quality even of his.
So it's really regenerative is that you're building a soil. You're building a living soil over time, right?
Yeah.
Technically, it gets better.
Technically, yeah. The regenerative is to year after year to see a development and betterment in increasing in the living capacity of the space of the place. And it is not only about soil, it is how you manage the resources. It is how you manage the water. It is how you manage how much sunlight you capture, because you need to put energy in this system. And especially in the huge areas in the grain production, intensive using of cover crops is a very big driver for regeneration. So,
how about another step? Part of regenerative step is bringing animals back in, right?
Yeah,
livestock. It's on 2,000 acres. It might be a little bit more of a challenge, especially because you have a perennial out there. So when you bring the animal back, you don't want it while you have any crop on the ground.
Well, here in Bulgaria, we have some challenge on this perspective because we have different structure of the land. So the farm is not consolidated at one place.
Mm-hmm.
They are working some fields in this area and some fields in this area. The neighboring fields are on, worked by the neighbor. So
Mm-hmm.
and the land is rented year by year, which is not just the logistics of grazing animals on the field is a bit difficult, but we have some farmers that they have animals as well. And in the neighboring fields that are close to the farm, and when logistics allow it, they graze cover crops on the fields, and they can see great results. Even they start to use the animals grazing cover crops, grazing weeds to reduce the herbicide
Sure.
load. Yeah,
So that the animals and animal husbandry works very well with orchards and vineyards
yeah,
because it's a confined space. Even big orchards and vineyards are still somewhat confined. But if you're growing a diversity of cover crop, the animals are going to mow it down naturally, leave a byproduct, and even the action of the hooves is supposed to be pretty good for the animals as well. And we see Philippe is doing
yeah.
that with his property as well. But that again is a regulatory issue because now you have again another inspector for all your livestock, and you have that kind of thing going
Yeah.
on. So you had mentioned that a lot of these farms are there's two things. One that people are renting. So in the U.S., at times I wonder if people who rent the land treat it like they own it or not. If they treat it with the same respect, or if they just are trying to get as much yield out of it as possible. I don't know if that's the case here or not, but that would be one question. So
Yeah.
tell me about that one.
Well, definitely the structure of and the way the land is rented and owned is a bit of a challenge for a farmer to think more about the land and for the future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have contract for 1 year for this land, all you have is expenses for the lease of the land, the rent.
Mm-hmm.
You have expenses for the production, and they are pretty much focused on the yield. So the decision making is very driven of short term factors
Right.
than the long term vision that.
Which is difficult
Yeah,
when
it
you're
is
trying to go
difficult, but
full regenerative.
I can say I admire them that they can, despite that, they can see how they can manage in this situation to actually go um, with these practices and sustain them.
One of the other things that you just mentioned is the fact that they are sometimes separated, field here, field here.
Yeah.
And I noticed as I was driving just up to Plovin and back, there's some natural areas that are left in between. And I don't know if that's done deliberately or if it's just areas that it doesn't grow as well, or there's maybe a river or something that's disconnecting them. But that's another part of regenerative farming is to try to leave as much ideally indigenous plants. And in today's world, especially here, what's indigenous is possible to say. You've had 8,000 years of different people coming and going, bringing seeds and doing all kinds of different things here. So it's hard to really trace back what was indigenous. But the idea of having these small bosques of for your perimeters, act as windbreaks, um, and even places in the middle of a field where you're leaving some natural stuff um, is considered good for a couple of reasons. One, because the ecology has evolved over thousands of years, not just that plant with that soil's got that microbial makeup that has evolved with it, and so has the food web. So it's not something you have to fertilize or water or anything like that. I see it, and I was in Italy with one regenerative farmer in Florence, and he told me, "Oh, I look at those areas like my sponge,
Yeah.
so they can hold better water, and they make all the other plants around them a little more resilient," is what he thought. Is that a practice thing, or is it just happen by accident?
Well, I believe it happened. It's not no, except for the windbreaks in Dobruja, especially near the coast, near the area of Kavarna. There, in the Soviet times, were established tree lines between the fields for preventing wind erosion. But I believe these strips between the blocks, between the fields, are a kind of natural division that just happened naturally. I don't think farmers are seeing them as something positive. Sometimes they're seeing these strips
As a weed?
Weed seed production, that the wind is blowing into their fields, which is actually a point. There is a point in that.
Sure.
Um, and in the US, the farmer is able to manage these strips as well. And here they're not a point of attention at all, let's say, at least till now. But a lot of new knowledge and new information is circling around, and the farmers are getting more and more open what positive influences they can have from natural processes. And they start to learn, the shift is in the mindset first.
Sure.
And if the farmer is not shifting his mindset, it is not very possible to do no-till, regenerative conservation even, because he is the one that has to make the decisions.
Right. Everything
He's the
you
one
do
that is
point,
doing it.
right? Thank you for joining the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Click subscribe and like for ongoing insightful conversations. Explore our webpage for show notes and additional resources. Visit our guests' webpage for deeper insights. Your engagement is the foundation of our journey, and until next time, keep pursuing wisdom.